Um, so, so basically, what I was watching yesterday, um, just that all these AAA companies are talking about implementing uh, these not, and that's the thing, they're not loot boxes that they're going to implement in the game, but they're going to make it so that you have to purchase an item with real money, as if you didn't spend enough on the game already,
Yeah.
to progress further in the game, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I don't I don't know what these companies are going through financially. I mean, I haven't heard of any strike from their employment staff,
Yeah.
that they're not getting paid enough, or that their hours are unfair, or anything like that. Like, they just seem to be wanting more money from us, which it just
Yeah.
no.
The first signs on the downfall of humanity.
Oh, no, the first. No, 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 Angelo.
Or
These were
at
not
least
the
one of
first
them.
signs. Greed has always been a thing with people.
Yeah. It's just that now it's starting
Always
to hit
been.
even more people, I think.
Well, now it's just more blatantly obvious. I feel like people have zero shame when it comes to it now.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, Battlefront 2 was a perfect example of that.
yeah, well, EA has been one of the big offenders. Activision. Um oh, did you hear what was going on with Blizzard also?
Yep. And it's not good.
No, and it's because all of the older execs are leaving, and so now all these younger people with these like ideas of making money are leading the company, and they're sort of steering it in that direction, and it's pissing a lot of players off because they're not respecting the legacy that these companies have established. They're just sort of like, oh, well, I'm finally in charge, and now I can, make this company some money by doing X,
Mm.
Y, and Z thing. And it's like, you never stop to think about the reasons as to why the company never implemented these practices in their business model, because
Yeah.
it doesn't work. And you cannot force the players to use these business models. Like, you cannot force players to purchase items, with actual money in addition to what they've already paid for, for the whole game, just
Yeah.
so that they can progress further in the story, because is that is something that I think is pretty criminal, actually.
Yeah.
And you think that you're doing a good job by hiding it, or by saying that, oh, we're just sort of testing the waters to see what players' reactions are going to be, and it's like,
Yeah. And it's like, in
no.
reality, you do know what the players are going to act, you
Oh
just
yeah,
refuse to accept it. And they still go with it.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I can't remember this person's name, but he's 100% correct. Like, the future of the gaming industry is very scary. Um, fortunately for us, it's not just the AAA gaming companies that are putting out stuff. There are a bunch of smaller game companies putting out stuff of quality, and they are complete games that we can experience and play right now. So we are fortunate to that, in that regard. But yeah, no, I was very shocked to hear that Sony was going to start, or was even thinking about implementing these practices into their future games for PlayStation 5 and whatnot. I was like, no, you all are treading on thin ice, and you better be careful, because the second you piss off the player base, that's it. I mean, again, look at what's happening with Blizzard and Activision and EA.
Yep.
Like, they pissed their player base off, and now everyone's up in arms. You have only a couple of lingering communities out there that are sort of in denial and just hoping that things will get better with these companies because of the past games that they've put out, and how great they were, and they're sort of they're turning to nostalgia for comfort, and just hoping everything is gonna be all right, and that they'll fire these new executives and bring on some people with better understanding of the gaming community, who have played video games themselves, and but
yeah, I mean, that's the only reason why games like Resident Evil 2 Remake and Final Fantasy 7 Remake are being so successful, is because they're being made by people that have played video games for a living.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's Monster Hunter also. I mean, you look at all the systems in play for Monster Hunter, the idea that, and I was just thinking about this yesterday before I was logging out, and I was like, how awesome is it that you can, first of all, save at almost any point in the game, but also when you quit, right before you quit, they ask you again, oh, would you like to save? And it's like, oh my gosh, like that's a really great system, and super thoughtful, and also just really easy to implement in the game. Just like, just the idea of thinking like a player. Like, oh man, how many times have I logged out and I wanted to save my progress? Well, now the game asks you, oh, would you like to save? You're like, oh, absolutely, that's right.
Yeah.
It's just so good. Monster Hunter was one of those games that they just implemented all these awesome little systems because they knew what the players wanted. And they were just like, here you go.
Yep.
Not concerned with, oh, we need to make a game that's different.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah, like that was definitely one of the big problems with Anthem, is that they wanted to make such a unique game that they wanted to be as original probably as, well, not even the anime Kill la Kill, because it has an original story, but there are elements that were taken from others still.
Absolutely.
So it's like, nowadays you can't really make anything that's 1000% original. You have to take inspiration no matter what you do.
Yeah. This hold on a second. I need to. It's called. So the YouTube channel, what is it? Lucid Pixel.
Okay.
Hold on, sorry, I'm reading that text. Lucid Pixel, but I forget his name. Oh man, it's okay. So, oh man, no, I lost my thought now because I have to read the text. Who? What were we just talking about? Sorry.
Like the whole future of gaming, and you're looking up this YouTube channel.
Man, what was the last thing you said? Do you remember?
Um,
Before I was gonna say that.
uh, how Anthem was trying to do everything completely original, but nowadays you just can't do that.
Oh, see, awesome, thank you. So this guy mentioned the singer David Bowie,
Mm-hmm.
and he said he watched an interview with David Bowie, and
Mm-hmm.
the interviewer asked him he if he stole anyone else's work, you know, and without he said without missing a beat, without like taking less than a second to respond, he said absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, my job as an artist isn't to produce a product out of thin air from nothing. He said, my job as an artist is to take things that already exist and combine them in a way that no one else would think to combine them.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy, that statement blew my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it
Because
is true.
oh, 100% is true, and it was such a profound statement, such a profound statement, because it is. It's exactly what artists do. Like we don't create shit out of thin air from nothing.
Yeah.
Like we it. That's where the creative side comes into play, and that's where the
Yeah.
imagination comes into
Like,
play. Is
that's why game or even series or franchises like Final Fantasy VII and Dragon Ball Z are so successful is because they took an idea that already existed and they took their own crazy spin off of it.
yeah, no, it was yeah. So that again, that's exactly what that is what artists do. We take things that already exist and we combine them together to create something that seems new and different. And that reminds me of the movie Ratatouille,
Yeah.
because that's exactly what he did. He was like, "Oh, this is really tasty and this is really tasty. What happens when you combine two things that are really tasty together? Oh wait, they taste even better."
Yeah.
And they make this quote unquote new thing.
Yeah. They create
Um,
something new from something that already exists.
yeah, exactly. Which is, when you think about it, how we have created literally everything. We've taken
Yeah.
elements that already exist, like dirt and cement and wood, and we've taken these elements and we've combined them together in a way that creates architecture and
Yep.
and tools and just utilities that we can use for creative and just functional purposes to help us
Yeah.
with our everyday lives. But it took an artist's mind to think, oh, these two elements, what would happen if I combine them together? And that's it. Artists are the ones who have these thought processes
Yeah.
of questioning the world that we live in, of questioning reality, and experimenting. You can even say that scientists, to a certain degree, are types of artists
Pretty much.
because they are not afraid to ask the question, "What if?" And that's what I've told my students so many times. Like, you need to ask the question, "What if?" And you need to come up with several answers.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's more
Yeah.
than one answer to that question.
Yeah. And it's something that not a lot of gaming companies are doing right now.
Well, they're not asking what if. I mean, I guess they are asking what if, but they're asking what if to
It's
the
like
to
they're
the question that
asking,
we don't want them to ask.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're asking themselves the wrong what if questions, almost. Or they're saying, or they're only taking a what if question in a good way that helps the company, not in a bad way.
Oh yeah, they're just doing it for money. They're doing it to line their pockets, and that's the thing too. Like, it would be one thing. I think it would be one thing if the community was with the understanding that everybody in the company was getting a bigger paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that's not true.
Yeah.
We know that the character designers and the 3D modelers and the background designers are not seeing any of this money that these companies are getting in addition to the $60 that we're already paying for the game.
Yeah.
And then if it's what do they call it, a live service? I can't remember what they call the online games. I think they're called live service games.
Subscription?
Or which are based, well, no, not even that, but yes. So like Final Fantasy 14, Elder Scrolls Online, these MMOs that are on console, you're paying a monthly subscription in addition to what you already paid for the game. So, and then on top of that, you can also purchase these cosmetic things with real life money that you cannot earn in the game. And yeah, I mean, people just throwing the cash at them, and I'm just like, how can you? I mean, I know how they can still be coming up with ways to get people's money, because they're asking that question. Well, what if we did this? Would people still pay for it? Could we get more money out of these people? Because if we can, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we try to increase our income? Which is what everyone's trying to do in this life, in this human society that we exist in. That's what everyone's trying to do. How can I increase my income so that I can live a more comfortable life? Yeah, so they're going to ask that question, and they're going to experiment with that. Well, what if we implemented? What would happen if we made it so that you could only beat a certain boss in God of War if you purchased this item that you could attach to your frost axe that would imbue it with what you need to defeat this boss. So we could do that, or we could make it so that you could farm the item, but you would need like 500 of this one type of material in order to craft the item you need to put into your axe to beat the boss. And that's just like, that's not cool.
Yeah.
That is really not cool on their part. But they're thinking about it. They are thinking about it. And that's the scary part.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I tell you, all it's going to take is for them to do it to one game, and they'll find out really fast that it's not going to work. I mean, they know it's not going to work, but they still have to try. I mean, they don't have to, but they want to. They still want to see if it would work, if people would be sort of blind enough to just go ahead and make the purchase, because they'll see, oh my gosh, it's the new God of War game. And I tell you right now, Angelo, if they do that with God of War, I would be so sad.
Yeah.
Oh, I would be so sad if they did that with God of War.
Yeah. I mean, right now, because people are saying that. I mean, for the longest time, there's always been a saying that video games have been more popular than movies.
Hmm.
But considering how greedy the gaming companies are getting, I people will most likely start saying that I'd much rather just get a movie.
Hmm. Actually, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think people are going to start to turn to these smaller gaming companies. I was watching a video yesterday on the company. I can't remember. There's something giant, but they did Transistor. They did. What other games did they do that I have one other game from them. Spire is another one of their games. The one that put them on the map, though, I can't remember the name of that one. But yeah, they were basically talking about how the entire time that they were making Transistor, first of all, they did something that was a bit of a mistake on their part. Um, they they were they were focusing so hard on creating a game that was original. They were hitting roadblocks literally at every turn, at every corner of the creative process of the game. They were hitting roadblock after roadblock because they just couldn't figure certain things out. And I'm just like, well, again, there's your problem right there. You were just focusing solely on creating a game that was original and unique, and not worrying about creating a game with good story and that was fun to play.
Yeah.
So that's one part of the interview that I watched that I was like, see, there's your problem.
Yeah.
But the
Which is,
thing that
which,
I
okay. No, go on.
Oh no, I was about to say the thing that I found that was really humbling though about this company, and this is why I believe people will turn to smaller companies and stray away from the AAA companies, is that so these people were shitting a brick
Okay.
every time they had to meet a release deadline because they were just like, like we have no idea how people are going to receive this game. We don't know what the audience is like. We don't know what the reaction is going to be. So when they had to meet their first release deadline, which you know, they they were they were all biting their nails because they were just like, what are people going to think? And it turned out that people really liked the game. And they were like, "Oh goodness, like thank, and then that sigh of relief, but then also that inspired them to push onward to, to keep going in the direction they were going to continue to develop the game, and then it became what it became. And now I purchased Transistor a long time ago when
Okay.
it was on sale. And I will say, I love the artistic design of the game. I love the animation. The graphics are super awesome. And I think that the gameplay, like the combat system, is really unique and really interesting, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The only thing I didn't like, which is the most important part for me, is the story. The story was not 100% clear, and maybe I have to play through it again in order to make that a little bit clearer. But there was no development story-wise for the world that you were existing in.
Okay.
yeah, there was no explanation of like, oh, in the year, because it's supposed to be like a not cyberpunk, but it's supposed to be like like a sort of like a futuristic type setting, but still with a vibe of like the Roaring Twenties, and your the character you play as, she's a singer who loses her voice, like it gets taken away from her, and this like this group comes in, and they're trying to take you away, but then your boyfriend steps in, who's a boxer or a fighter of some sort, and while he's trying to protect you, he gets killed, and he gets put into the transistor, which is this weapon that you wield. And now it's basically a revenge story, but like I have no idea who the group is. I have no idea why they were after your character in the first place. You know what I mean? Like there's so much of the story that was missing that they could have put into the game via like a flashback, or you have to sort of go to these terminals to get your quest steps, and they totally could have thrown a flashback in the terminal, or just to give us a little bit more story of like, oh, okay, like this is going to make me feel like the character. And yeah, definitely did not get that from Transistor. So that's my only criticism, is that there wasn't enough story for me personally. And you know me, I'm all about the story. And it wasn't there for me. But like I said, everything else about the game, I loved. Even like the boss designs and their abilities, and the way you had to go about figuring out how to defeat the boss. Like, it was a fun game to play, and when I was playing it, I was invested. I was super invested. Like nothing else existed around me but the game. Like it really pulled me in. I just didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing, other than, I'm getting revenge for my dead boyfriend. And that's it. Like there wasn't anything deeper to drive me on. And then I haven't played Spire yet from them. But again, like it looks like a really awesome game. Graphics are great. The character designs are cool. Like everything about Spire looks great, but again, I don't know what the story is going to be, so we'll see. But yeah, so that's what I mean. Like it's games and game companies like that people are going to start to turn to when these AAA companies get too greedy. Because that's what it's looking like. That's where they're going. They're going to this. They're taking this level of greed, and they're just running with it. They don't even care. And that's the thing too. They have so much money. They're like, oh well, if we take a couple $1 million hit, like we'll still be. But it's like, you don't understand. If you mess up your relationship with the community, you are done. You are done. Not, we'll take the loss on one game. No. No. Once you break the trust in the community, they will never purchase a product from you ever again. And that's it. You're done as a company.
Yeah. Yeah, which is what EA is very close to getting to now, especially after Anthem, that they lost, I think, $3.6 billion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And there's talk of, okay, so they're putting 2.0 out, or, Anthem Next, however you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no guarantee that people are gonna purchase it still because they've got that bad taste in their mouth from the first game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you really, everyone's gonna be like, did you really fix it though? Like, did you really do it this time, or are you going to just put out a different type of Anthem with a whole new mess of problems that we're going to have to deal with, that you're going to have to then patch and fix again? Because I tell you right now, Angelo, if they do that, that company is done. Like, done.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think they took a really ballsy step by announcing that they're actually going through with Anthem 2.0, and that they're remaking it and rehashing it. I mean, I think that's great, but I think the future of their company is riding on this one game because that's all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
That is all it takes.
Yep.
Because it wasn't just the bug.
Final Fantasy VII Remake is a perfect example of that. Not that it looks like it's going to be messed up, but it is a perfect example that if they mess this one game up, that company is just going to be torn down.
Oh, yeah. Although I feel like Square Enix can take a little bit of a hit, even for Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Well, no, because I immediately know what's going to happen is that once they take the hit, they're going to be pretty ballsy with it and go far with it. Because that's what's happening with every gaming company. Once they start something, they go for it till the end.
Yeah. I mean, they have to. But yeah, that's true. Yeah, Square Enix, they do. They have a lot riding on Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I can't remember, I was watching this other YouTube video and someone was like, yeah, it always sucks when, companies have to push their game back. And I'm like, no. You misunderstand the community. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
That is great. We are ecstatic and thrilled when a company has to push a game back, because that means that they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's and making sure that all the details and all of the things are there before they release the game, which is what it used to be, because there was no ability to quote-unquote fix the game via a patch back in the day. You put a game out and that was it.
Code Vein was going to release in 2018.
Right.
Then they pushed it back a year later, and then it came out in 2019, and everyone is ecstatically enjoyable with it.
Oh yeah, and everybody enjoys it. So yeah, I mean, these people misunderstand, and they're probably being sponsored by the AAA companies to say certain things, which would not surprise me. Because and that's another thing too, like, that's how you know that they're not gamers.
Yeah.
Because if they were gamers, it would be like, no, it's not great to expect a game to come out on a certain day and then to find out it's going to get pushed back, but also at the same time, there's that little breath of relief, like, oh, okay. They're gonna fix some things, they're gonna make sure that, a game that, like, they should only be implementing DLC once a game is released. Not putting through patches and fixing the game after it's been released.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that does not make sense.
Yeah.
Like, people need to slow down. If there's, like, if you have hardcore gamers like yourself, I'm not as hardcore of a gamer anymore because I don't have the time like I used to.
Yeah.
But like players like yourself, if you run out of video games, that's fine. Like, go draw. Heaven forbid you go outside. Like, there are other things you can do until the next game comes out. And I don't know why these companies are so afraid of, like, not putting a game out.
Yeah.
Let the market breathe a little bit. It's so oversaturated right now.
Yeah.
So oversaturated. Let this company have their moment.
Yeah.
So that they can build up their funds and their their equipment and become like an actual competitor, and that's going to help the market economically increase. I mean, that is how our economics work.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a monopoly. You can't have just like one gaming company putting out games and that's it. And that's what like all these big companies are trying to do. They're all trying to become like the one big gaming company that puts content out for players, and it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's what they're actually like thinking, but that's the way that they're, they'll pump out like 2 or 3 games a year, and it's like, you gotta slow down because you're putting out crap.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh well, but we'll put this patch through. We'll just put that patch through. Just get the game out. Nah,
Mm-hmm.
no.